hello to those who are watching on LinkedIn, or if you're watching on the YouTube, or if you're viewing us on Facebook. Welcome to the first of 3 seminars that we'll be doing, which are sponsored by the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. Today's seminar is on recover and grow within the hospitality sector, with a nod to retail. I am joined today by Jamie Izzard. Jamie is the head of the Mayor of London's enterprise team, and Jamie will be starting us off today, and we'll be doing a section to talk to us about what's going on there, what we can expect. And then I'll be doing a short panel discussion where I'll be joined by Graham Cook, who is the CEO of All Star Lanes, and then we've got Hannah Wally, who is the founder of HLW Consultants, and then we've got Peter Avis, who is the wonderful GM at Galvin at Windows. And I'm very lucky to say that I've worked with all 3 of our panelists today. So we have some set questions and some questions that were sent in. And before we begin the panel, we will allow each panelist just to introduce themselves properly so that you can meet them before we begin. So without further ado, I think we will start with Jamie. Over to you.
Great, thanks, Jason. I'm just going to talk fairly freely about the work that I'm currently doing and a bit of context around the Mayor's policies and his approach. But I don't sit within this kind of political establishment of the GLA, as we refer to them, those on the 8th floor. I sit within the staffing bit. So I'm politically neutral, of course. So I sit within the economic development team at City Hall. We cover a range of things in terms of business support. My team focuses on the smaller businesses, so SMEs, and we look at everything to support SMEs in terms of policy, in terms of delivery of business support, and also things around access to finance and access to workspace. So that's kind of, in a really brief nutshell, the role of my team. I also wear a different hat. I head up the London LEP. Some of you will be aware of LEPs. Lots of talk about LEPs across the country, good and bad. And I head up on a day-to-day basis the London one. So working with other LEPs across the country and central government in terms of future funding and strategic direction for economic development. I also, is relevant to this conversation, I used to head up the GLA's food team, so helped deliver the most recent London food strategy and some big key policies that some of you may or may not like the policy to restrict advertising of junk food on the tube, which is quite timely given today's announcement. So a real range of different things, but at the moment, really focused on how we directly support businesses. And our main initiative to do that is through the London Business Hub, which is London's growth hub. Each part of the country has a growth hub. They all vary in size and form, but there's 38 of them alongside each of the LEPs. And in London, ours is called the London Business Hub. We have 5 physical sites where businesses can come in and speak to a business support advisor. It's an ERDF funded project, so they get kind of up to 12 hours of support. And obviously we've been doing all of our support remotely over the last year or so, but we're hoping to open those physical hubs again very shortly. And our West London hub is over in Hammersmith, at the Huddle site, the Romulus building, if you know it. So that's the kind of core offer. We also do a lot of other business support that targets particular business issues or sectors. So we've been doing a lot of stuff around property advice, helping businesses with advice if they're looking to take on a property or renegotiate a lease. Really important, and something that's been really useful for the businesses that have access to support prior to COVID, but even more so now. So that's kind of like free professional advice, let's say. We work with Gerard Eve and a couple of other organisations to provide that advice to businesses. So it's an offer of free support if you're looking to do that. We also have some more bespoke programs that target businesses that are looking to grow. So we've partnered with Cass Business School to deliver a program called Recover and Grow. And that's a program, again, that's free to access. It's aimed at businesses with slightly greater turnover than the kind of micro businesses that we often deal with. So it's businesses with who are already employing staff and have a turnover around 450k. But that's access to free sort of leadership training, which is proving really popular with the businesses that we've worked with. And then finally, the other thing we're doing at the moment is part of a national program. We're doing something called peer networks. We get about 10 businesses in a room together. We take an action learning approach. We have a facilitator that works with the businesses who help each other come to solutions to some of the problems that they might share. And that's proving to be really popular. We've got another 20 cohorts of that going out. So all of that, part of the Business Hub offer, in a nutshell, BusinessHub.London is the online portal. There's lots of stuff on there. What I'd like to say is, if we're talking about hospitality today, I think by far the most common sector in the businesses we engage with is food and drink, followed by retail. The majority of the small businesses we're dealing with are from these sectors. The Mayor is obviously focusing on the hugely detrimental impacts against these sectors in terms of COVID. Not completely gone away, still a massive, massive problem. Funding, support ending, continuing to lobby government on making sure that that continues in line with the impact. So there's still a lot of work to be done there. We're doing a lot around promoting the sector, particularly around the central activity zone. So a lot of work to help the CAS get back on its feet and the businesses in that area. So you may have seen the big campaign at the Mayor's launch, Let's Do London. We focused on food as the first part of that, which was great to see. So about £6 million has gone into that piece of work and the work around it. So big bit of investment from City Hall. I could talk for days about all the different things we're doing through LEAP to support the recovery, but I won't. I'm hoping that that's probably enough, Jason.
No, that's fantastic, Jamie. That's a really good overview. And if people do want to get more information, where is it they can visit again?
Yeah, so in terms of the business support, it's BusinessHub.London. That's out, and there's a COVID hub there. There's lots of online support, but access to all of the programs can be got through that. And I'm more than happy to be put in contact with anyone who wanted to talk more on the policy side or any of the other work at City Hall. So happy for my email address to be shared after this.
Oh, you wish you hadn't said that, Jamie, but we'll share it with pride. We've got that now for any reasons. It's recorded that you said we could share it. So GDPR, that's what I was thinking of. We've covered it. Brilliant. Thanks, Jamie. That's really useful. Hopefully people found that that information great. And what we'll do is we'll try and get some bits from you, Jamie, and myself and Nicola will share that on some of our channels. So if people just want to read over it rather than visit the website, etc., then they can do that. So thank you very, very much. So as we all know, it's been a bit of a turbulent 16, 17 months. It's been a bit of a weird one for many of us. This topic today is quite close to my heart. I myself, in my day job, work in hospitality, so have been affected by the roller coaster that we shall name COVID, and that's the one time I'll mention the C word during this seminar today. But I think we are coming towards the end of that tunnel, and there's lots of things to be looking forward to. But I think it's also now's a good time to understand how we do it right. So what we've done for you is we've put together a nice panel today, and we've got 3 speakers, so I'll just quickly let them introduce themselves before we start with some questions. So we'll start with Graham. Tell us a bit about yourself. A bit like blind date, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the invite, Jason. Yes, I'm Graham Cook. I'm CEO for All Star Lanes.
Fantastic. And Hannah Woolley.
Reminding myself how to unmute again. Hi everyone, I'm Hannah. Thank you so much for having me, Jason. I run my own business development consultancy for the hospitality industry, so predominantly focusing on sales strategy and how we can build those numbers in events and private members clubs, venues and restaurants.
Thanks, Hannah. And obviously, I actually met Hannah, for those that don't know. Hannah used to work for Square Mill as the director of the show, Venues and Events Live, which is one of the largest events shows in Europe. And Hannah used to be the director of that show. So lots and lots of insights. So if I was you, get your pens and paper out and write Hannah's name down and find her on LinkedIn afterwards, because she's very insightful. And then Peter.
Hello everyone, I'm Peter Avis. I'm the General Manager of Galvanet Windows and 10 Degrees Sky Bar, located at the Hilton on Park Lane. And I'm very excited to be joining this panel discussion today.
And Peter, am I correct in thinking you're also the chairman of something quite important? Fellow chairman.
Hello, chairman. Yeah, I'm the chairman of the Guild of UK Restaurants. No, I am the chairman of the Guild of UK Restaurants, to be serious about it, which is an appointment I take very seriously. I was appointed the UK Restaurant Manager of the Year, and the first ever, and on the back of that award, I was appointed chairman. I'm also, I've just joined the board of the Institute of Hospitality, so I'm also a trustee now of the IOH, which does everything to, to improve the positioning and the perception of hospitality internationally. So I sit on that board to do things like this, to improve the perception of our sector and to ensure we get through this crazy storm we're all going through at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, it's lovely to have all 3 of you here. Having worked for Graham most recently, I'm looking forward to see what you've got to say today, Graham. Managing 4 sites in London, one of the hardest hit capitals, is going to be interesting to get your insights and your positive twist on that. So without further ado, let's start with some questions. I'm sure people want to hear what's going on. So let's start off with this first one we've got. So we are one of the industries that's been hit the hardest. I don't think anybody's going to argue that by recent events. As we move forward, what is it you're most looking forward to? Let's start with you, Peter.
I think what I've looked forward to is getting back to doing what we love to do, and that's just making and creating magical experiences for our guests. Just last week, we celebrated Galvin at Window's 15th birthday, which I'm new to this role. So I signed my contract as the new general manager 2 weeks before the first lockdown. So I signed a contract on the 12th of February, and we were closing the business down. We were talking of on the 18th of February when this virus started. Long story short, when we were opening back up in May, I got wind that the restaurant was going to be 15. So I decided to create a big party where we had all the chefs coming in to cook each course, and we had 90 invited guests. We had a DJ in the sky bar with a saxophone player, and we obviously respected social distancing. But hospitality, I think the positive, and I think we have to, as you said, Jason, focus on positives, is that we've all remembered why we do it. And Jason, you know me, I didn't do double shifts easily back in Roof Gardens days. Now I'm like, yes, I'm on a double. So I think what we've found in this landscape, and I think the big opportunity for all of us collectively, is that consumers have realized how much they love to go out, whether they're going to do a bowling night at Ulster Lanes, or whether they're coming here to have a 7-course tasting menu. The consumer's really enjoying it, and the hospitality my team has given is very genuine. So I think I've looked forward to getting back to doing and remembering what I love to do, which is hospitality. And I think that's what everyone wants right now.
I think I'll have to agree with you. Definitely looking forward to hospitality. Graham, what about yourself? For someone who almost single-handedly has almost refreshed all of the All-Star Lanes, I know you've had quite a lot to do with the interior design, but you recently just opened, well, not recently anymore, but White City, the newest venue in your collection, where you put your heart and soul into the design of that. And it was busy for a year, getting great, doing fantastic, and then COVID. What is it you're looking forward to? Is it filling your venues? Is it service?
100%. You're very kind, Jason. Yeah, obviously White City was the first venue we had that was a complete blank box. It was actually intended to be a Sainsbury's local of all things. So, you know, it was literally a concrete box, and we completely bespoked it. So it was perfect for events, perfect for personal celebrations, corporate events, etc. So yes, we're so excited to see those smiley, happy people coming back through the doors and making their event so special. You know, it's been such a long time. You can do so many things at home, but you certainly can't throw a party. I don't know of anyone that has bowling alleys at home either. So it's time.
And if anyone here has not been to All-Star Lanes, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best bowling experiences you're going to go to. Thanks, Graham. So Hannah, one for you. Obviously, unfortunately and sadly, it's heartbreaking. Not all venues are going to make it through the closing and the reopening and the closing and the reopening. What do you think those that are open and trading need to focus on to make their resilience sustainable?
I think it's become really apparent very quickly, not only because of COVID, but because of Brexit as well, that the industry is really struggling for resource at the moment. So I've probably had a dozen really fantastic hospitality experiences in the last couple of months, but lots and lots of not so fantastic ones. And at places where some new openings, so of course they're finding their feet, but some really well-established businesses where I would be used to a much higher standard of service. And I think what we've got to really look out for is we're going to pass by the sweet spot of sympathy and empathy for that site, that restaurant, that hotel. I was at Limewood yesterday in Hampshire, and so much of it was fantastic, but the F&B service was really, really lacking, and it just does completely impact your whole experience. So I think the big thing at the moment is teamwork, staff retention, recruitment, I know is a real challenge. So the work that Peter's mentioned briefly to me that he's doing, and all of the sort of championing we can do for the hospitality industry, is a fantastic place to work, not just for a few shifts while you're at university, but a career path. You know, as you said, we've worked together. I've worked with lots of fantastic people in my 15 or maybe 18 years in the industry, and I'm very passionate as well about really doing something to ensure that we're growing talent and helping it nurture it through the industry. So I think this is going to be a really big year for that, couple of years I'm sure and beyond. So yeah, I think that's what to focus on at the moment, and hopefully consumers giving a little bit of wriggle room, a little bit longer than perhaps we'd normally have patience for not such great service, and keep going.
I know, yeah, I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. That sympathy will only last so long. Everyone's learnt how to cook now. Everyone's learnt the price of, you know, a case of wine at the supermarket, and they've all done their gardens and houses up. So if they're going to go out and spend that hard-earned money, it's got to be memorable. It's got to be special, definitely. Yeah, no pressure.
I think, you know, in a nutshell there, the answer is service is sustainable. That's the thing you need to focus on. Have you found that as well, Peter?
Yeah, I think just going back to what Graham and Hannah was saying, I think the key here is we are in a crisis. I think anyone, I know, and I'm being very open about that. I think we've got to accept we do have a crisis. I mean, we've just had Le Grave Roche having to close lunches. One of our restaurants were in the Galvin portfolio overnight, had to change their operating hours. What I've tried to do here at Galvin at Windows, and what I urge all leaders to be looking at, is really look ahead at your business now, because as Anna said, we all have to protect the reputation, and the consumer will only have patience for so long. So if they're coming for dinner with us and they're going to pay 150 quid a head, they expect 150 quid's worth of service and quality, right? So what I've done, I had a meeting yesterday and we've put in a plan A, B and C. So none of that plan even needs to kick in right now, touch wood, for us. But we're seeing a resignation in the kitchen, another resignation's come in, and managers resigned. People's mental, you know, way of doing things is changing daily. But I just think what I've done is I've put 3 plans in place. So that one plan A rather is maybe reducing our opening hours. Plan B is really taking out a couple of lunch services should we get there, and plan C is going a step further. I think that you've got to get your people involved in that and have a plan, because you can see already, as I've gone out to places like Hannah, and I was getting a little bit and then I'm like, oh, and I'm right there, I'm in the operation, and I just think the way we treat our teams, especially in kitchens, the days are gone. You know, they're just not having that anymore. These tech companies have been capturing a lot of people during lockdown. I think we've got to, it's how we value people. I don't, you know, my team don't get paid the most in the world, and as hospitality, we don't pay the most, but we can do things like ensure the staff meals nutritional, you know, make sure the uniform sorted out, make sure if they're working till 2 a.m, get them an Uber, you know, as opposed to letting them get on night buses to come back at 8 o'clock. Them days have gone. I think the one for hospitality is that we're full lunch dinner. It's definitely the market buoyant for where we are. And I said it to my head chef this morning, we've got to think differently now. Then it's changed a lot really fast.
Some really good points there. It's changed on both sides, hasn't it? Your staffing side and the consumer side. It's not the same market that it was before. Thanks, Peter. Some really good insight there. So obviously, Graham, you've got Galvin's. I've got a couple of swingers. I mean, Graham, you've got 4 sites in London. So this question is really for you. As someone who's reopened your venues, congratulations. It's great that you've been able to do that. What are some of the key wins and successes for you?
Gosh, I think ultimately having a little bit of quiet time and really sitting and reassessing our business model was one of the very few sort of positive gifts that came out of some time of stepping back. One of the key successes coming back in has been looking at generating other reasons to visit and really diversifying our offer. And we're really pleased to say that that's been, touch wood, so far going relatively well. You know, we've designed new concepts that work within the restrictions in terms of guest numbers and in terms of what they can do. And of course, you know as old, we're a large space, and we thrive on parties of over 100 and big corporate and private events. So you know, once you've dried your eyes and gone, okay, they can't come back just yet, what we're going to do with these spaces. We've worked with some fantastic new people that we would have never have looked at before. The likes of Sharky and George have put together some fantastic new products such as murder mysteries, tabletop heists, there's more live music and different acts going on each night. And yeah, really touching into a new audience and creating new reasons to come back and visit us. That's been probably our biggest success. I
love Sharky and George. I think I've been to their office once. I can't remember what it was, but they had a slide in the office that went from the top floor to the bottom.
Yes. And of course, we took a lot of learning from them, because when, you know, pre-COVID, lots of our clients would use Sharky and George. They were largely a children's-based entertainment company. And of course, they did the whole corporate thing. You know, they masterminded lots of lockdown quizzes and events and all this, you know, staring into Zoom with a glass of wine till midnight, you know. And of course, they've come out the other side with this whole new proposition, which, yeah, it's working really well for us.
I'm really glad to hear. And, you know, if I had children, I'd send them to All Star Lanes, but I've got 18 nieces and nephews, so maybe I could push them that way. They might need the private room, that lot, I tell you. Great, this is fantastic. So we've got a couple of questions that were sent in, and rather than it being my voice that's always asking these questions, we've got some other people that are going to ask some. So I think we'll start with Martin Herbert, who is the CEO of Banham Security. I think you've got a question for the panel. You're currently on mute, Martin. Sorry, just to warn you, before I set you up to fail there.
I'm sure that I was muted, Nicola. I blame her. Yes, thanks very much. And by the way, Peter, one of my very favourite restaurants. I just wish I was one of those 90 guests that you invited. Just bear me in mind for next time.
Yours is in spam, Michael. You did get an invite, so check your inbox.
Fair enough, fair enough. So listen, I imagine we've all enjoyed some al fresco dining in the last few months. My question is a very simple one. Is it here to stay?
Who wants to go first?
Well, I have to start by just really recognizing and being so full of admiration for people who've put 3 coats on and 6 scarves and sat in the pouring rain and supported the industry. You know, you can't help but
I did that.
You can't help but say nice things to those consumers. I suppose ultimately, you know, people have been so creative with the areas they have, and they've really expanded wherever they can. And I think wherever possible, there'll be more of an outdoor offering, and certainly in London moving forward and the UK. Ultimately, you know, stating the obvious, the climate won't support that. So it'll be bigger than before. And I think there'll be more of a street presence for hospitality. And dare I say, some of the, you know, some of the other casualties within COVID, where there's empty units within retail and other sectors that have been filled with new outdoorsy style concepts. Yeah, I'd love to see those stick around. So there'll be more, but no, I can't see it being significantly more.
Right.
I think what you will see on the back of what Graham said as well, I think if you look at in Compton Street, for an example, where they've done that pedestrianisation of the area, I think in the UK, and I think relevant to this discussion, I think there was a lot of red tape before, where you just weren't allowed to put a table outside, and that can increase capacity of these much smaller. I was at a place in Soho, a little Mexican place, and you know the outside give them an extra 20 covers that they never would have had before, because Westminster would never allow it. I think the call to action now is going to be councils just need to let common sense play a little part in this, in order to allow them smaller venues to have a bigger capacity, even just in the summer period, so that they're increasing that revenue stream. But I do think that the pedestrianisation of certain areas, and I don't know if Kensington, what the situation is on High Street 10, but I do think there's an element of that flexibility coming in moving forward, which is great.
I think it's definitely better to have people dining outside and adding into the economy than diesel trucks and petrol cars powering through the streets, right? It's got to be a win-win. Hannah, as someone who's consulted for some amazing brands like the Hospital Club, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think things are here to stay outside?
My take on it would be, I think neighbourhood areas, yes. I think it's unlikely that the Mayor of London potentially and local councils are going to kiss goodbye to congestion charge and all the other expensive things about driving around London. So I would think, I mean, certainly where I live in southwest London, lots of little high street areas, Wandsworth High Street, Northcote Road in Clapham, they've all either fully pedestrianised or pedestrianised sort of Thursday to Sunday. And it's definitely brought that European vibe. Lots of little cafes, independent brunch places that, like Peter said, have kind of doubled or even tripled their covers. I think it would be mad for local councils not to help that continue, even if it is just from May to September. I think when people are a bit closer to home, maybe they're a bit more relaxed about the weather impact. I don't know. It could be. I think Graham's got a point. There's only so much.
I think Antonia, who's actually here from the council, has just kindly put a note in that the Royal Borough of Kensington actually encourages hospitality businesses to trade outside where possible. So if you're currently not trading in RBKC, perhaps you need to move your premises or open a second restaurant. Yeah. Thanks, Hannah. I really appreciate that.
If I just to finish off on that, I mean, Hannah, I agree with you. And actually, Northcote Road is one I was going to mention because I live in Clapham. And actually, it's incredible. I don't know if anybody's been there or seen it. And I think it'd be so sad. People clearly really enjoy it. And it's very impressive how the restaurants have kind of, you know, they're all out on the road and the pavements and the bars and so on, and takeaway places. And it's very impressive. The local residents absolutely love it, clearly. Very busy. And it would be such a shame if that went, because it's this wonderful continental vibe.
I think, Martin, the way forward, you know, I think we'd all be happy to see a hybrid of the two. I think it makes absolute sense in the summer to have more spaces outside to dine, and let's hope it is here to stay. I'd just like to pause for a moment and just say hello to Councillor Catherine Fawkes, who's one of our sponsors today. Nice to see you. I know you've raised your hand, so I assume that you wanted to jump in there, and you're more than welcome to, of course.
Hi everyone. I'm so sorry I had to join you late, and I'm not going to give a spiel now, but I just wanted, picking up on the conversation you were having, to sort of elaborate on what Antonia was saying, that I think we've given in RBKC more outside licenses than any other borough. We've shut Portobello Road, we've got Pavilion Road, we're closing down Bute Street, Kensington Park Road is now one way. So we've absolutely gone for it to help our restaurants have as many outside covers as they can. And we've already said that we're happy for this to continue till 2022. So when you're talking about, do you think this is here to stay? I think absolutely it's here to stay. I mean, it's been such a success. It's brought such activity and liveliness into the streets that why would we want to get rid of it?
And this is why we love RBKC. So this is the best chamber to be a part of. Thanks, Catherine. That's really positive and really nice to hear from you yourself as well.
And you.
I think we've got another question. So moving on from that one, I think John Cripps from John Cripps Consulting has a question to ask.
Must be unmuted.
Oh, John, you've got a very shaky microphone situation.
1, 2, 3. Very nice to see you all.
No, John, it may be that I asked this on your behalf then.
Oh,
apologies, as your connection seems...
Any better? No?
You can give it a go. Go on, you go ahead. Try and get it out in one go.
Oh, no, I will speak. Hang on, I'll drop my video. Hang on.
Perfect.
Okay, can you hear me now? I've dropped my video.
Yes.
So that probably helps. No, can't hear me at all. I can't believe it.
No, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Excuse me. Forgive my French. Firstly, Graham, I was going to say to you.
No.
Oh, no, John, so sorry, we've lost you.
I was going to say to you, I think one person, of course, who does a private, you know, bowling alley, of course, is the White House and President.
John, I think I'm going to have to take over for you because your connection's weak. Graham, I think what he's trying to say, if I know John well enough,
can't believe it.
Is
Can you
that
hear me now?
You've got one of the best private rooms within the bowling alley at the White City.
Well, you put a thumb up if you can hear me.
And we've been there, and John's had a wonderful time at your private room before, and there are videos of John Cripps dancing in the private room at All Star Lane, which I think is what he's trying to communicate over. John, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask your question for you so we can keep moving on. John's question was, what advice would you give to someone young who wants a career in hospitality, and what have been your career highlights? I think that one, we'll start with Peter, actually, if that's okay.
Sorry guys, I'm on mute. Sorry. Yeah, so the reason I got into hospitality, that was the first question, Jason, correct? Yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
Sorry. Yeah, so like many young people, my route into hospitality was by pure fluke. I was in Miami and got a job as a dishwasher, and absolutely dreaded the thought of washing dishes with a chip on my shoulder in Reebok Classic trainees at 17. But actually what happened is the guy that owned the restaurant, a guy called Nick, gave me my first cappuccino and spent 5 minutes with me and valued me. And my body language went from this to this. And it was the first time I thought he really believes in me. And that was the reason I got into it. I think the career highlight for me, and that my career sort of went into waitering. I worked at the NGM and Roof Gardens and everywhere else. I think the career highlights for hospitality for me was the recognition that you can get, and when you work hard in hospitality, you can have life-changing experiences. Just last week there was one guy that came with his daughter, and he sent the most heart-wrenching email of how amazing his experience was. This was just last week, and his daughter had transitioned from a male to female during lockdown. It was her first night out as a female. And he wrote to me just last week saying how amazing it was, the experience his daughter received from me and my team. And that was just last week. I'm in my 40s now, so right now that's a career highlight for me. When you get emails like that and you get that you're making an impact on someone's life. And I think that's the beauty of hospitality, as well as seeing, like you, Jason, when you come to work at Roof Gardens and watching you go from, growing to the sales manager you became when you worked together. And that to me is a massive career highlight, to see you today hosting a panel like this. Their career highlight to me, definitely.
Thanks, but you're very kind. And you know what, just out of inspiration for other people, I think it was really interesting what you were telling us privately, myself, Graham and Hannah, before we started today's chat. And I'd love for you to share the initiative, if you may, that you're doing, because I'm sure you don't mind me saying this, Peter, as a non-London person yourself,
with this accent,
you might have noticed Peter's accent. He was given opportunity and then took opportunity and got to where he is now as the GM of Galvin at Windows. But Peter, can you tell us about the initiative that you're taking for young people to get them into London working?
Certainly. So I think one thing, the elephant in the room that we all have right now is that there's been a 3-point attack on hospitality as an industry. First one was Brexit, where the UK government unfortunately classed hospitality as low skilled, which meant the pipeline coming in from Europe was gone because they were low skilled. The second stab we got was the pandemic, like everyone. And what happened during the pandemic in hospitality, and in retail as well, a lot of the younger people living in London couldn't afford to stay in London on an 80% basic. So they couldn't, they had to leave. And the third caveat we've been dealing with, and we've all been dealing with, is the perception of hospitality in the UK, that parents don't think their children should work in hospitality because it's sort of looked down upon. But I believe it's the class system we have, unfortunately. So in my current role, what I realised is we have a crisis, as I was talking earlier. So what I've done, because the hotel occupancies in the UK are very low at the moment, because we've got no one coming in, I work at the London Hilton on Park Lane. I took it upon myself a couple of weeks ago to go and speak to the directors of Hilton and say, look, we've got these empty bedrooms. We've got a talent crisis. Can I engage with my contacts in the northwest of England as a starting point? And in a nutshell, my one-man band I've been allocated, I'm going to have up to 100 bedrooms given to me complimentary for young people to come down to London. I've got the first group arriving next week, so I've just employed 5 young people from the Northwest region. They'll be put on a full-time pay as junior waiters. They'll be given accommodation, complimentary, and food on duty by the Hilton. They'll get all of their uniforms, etc. And I'll be their mentor as well as my team. And hopefully what this is going to do is start breaking that cycle, because I've been going, as Jason knows, into schools, into colleges. I'm doing this for the best part of 25 years. And you know, we have to change this perception. And I see the situation we're currently in, like Hannah was saying, going out and seeing the resource issue. We as leaders and anyone on this call today, you know, we've got to think out the box, and we need to nurture our own. I'm a lad from a council estate in Liverpool that was that dishwasher and them trainees, is now a massively successful general manager. I own a couple of properties in London, I drive a nice car, I'm guardian to 2 kids. I sit in a polka dot tie today. Why? Because I'm a cheeky lad from Liverpool, and we seem to be missing that. And we seem to be in our education system. So if you haven't got 10 GCSEs, you're no one. Well, actually, I'm dyslexic with no GCSEs, and I've become someone. So I'm trying to change that perception and using this time we're in now as an opportunity.
I think it's amazing, that scheme. I know I've got people on this call. I've got Craig Bennett, who's from Indigo Hotels IHG, and I've got Debbie Ives from the Holiday Inn Kensington Forum, who have massive properties. I think it's such an amazing initiative that your hotel have taken. And if Craig or Debbie even want to link up with Peter post this chat, let me know. I'll happily introduce you, because maybe it's an initiative that London needs to be looking at.
I think it is.
Debbie?
Jason, sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, with Peter, you started as nothing. I started without no hospitality experience. I just fell into hotels. After being a mum of 2, I wanted a little part-time job. I started in a restaurant as a waitress, and again, I made my way into sales. So I understand.
I think Debbie's just echoing there how.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go on, carry on,
But
Debbie.
it's about, oh, jeez.
Bloody
Everybody's trying to call me, and they
For those
won't
that
go
don't know,
away.
Debbie's now director of
Again, it's all
sales for
about
the hotel.
passion, isn't it, at
why
the end of
she's
the
so
day?
listening.
And I love hospitality, and there's something else I would do better.
You
won't get rid of me.
Well, I just think,
like you say, Jason, hence why I joined you to come on the exec committee. It's all about the hospitality, and it's the passion, and it's the drive. And I do think that, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll bring it back to how hospitality was before COVID.
Absolutely. If only they put more of us on BBC News to wave that flag of positivity. Because not to just bang on a drum as well, but same as Peter and Debbie, I came from someone who used to wash menus at Peter's restaurant. So it's funny how we all grow from this hospitality industry. Hospitality is a great sector, and I think we may have been overlooked, or some people may feel that, but I think we're in a strong position, and there's definitely support out there. The council at Kensington and Chelsea have been wonderful with us. And on the recruitment drive, Peter, I don't know if you've heard of the Kickstart scheme, which has been an amazing scheme for us. We've been a key holder for that, to sort of introduce people into it. We're supported by the council with things, and Nicola, who's our exec manager, has been doing a wonderful job. So I think nurturing talent is so important. I feel so pumped already on this call.
I think, you know, I spent, personally, as you know, I spent more or less 20 years working in Kensington and Chelsea. So I opened the Royal Garden Hotel, was my first ever job in London in 1996. And then I had a 15-year tenure at the Roof Gardens on High Street, Kensington. And, you know, throughout that whole tenure, there was a lot of engagement with the council. And I used to go to the town hall, and, you know, the guys would come over. And I think that, you know, there's much to be said about Kensington and Chelsea Council and how they engage with the local young people and communities and can make these changes. And I think today shows that as well. So I think that's pretty well done.
Peter, from yours, not Peter, Graham, sorry, from your side, someone who had, you know, a massive venue in the heart of Manchester, which sadly, I know that you sold about a year ago now for other reasons, but you've got 4 amazing venues in London. I remember the huge, vast pool of talent that you had. I mean, you go into an All-Star Lanes and you'd feel like you're in one of the best restaurants in London, you know, the service that you provide. What are your thoughts on this?
That's very kind of you to say, and I don't mind saying, you know, Manchester unfortunately was one of those businesses that didn't make it for us. We couldn't come to a sensible arrangement in terms of rent and overheads with our landlords, and it was, you know, as ever for a business leader, a very difficult decision to make, but the right one to secure as many roles and secure the future of the company. I think we have a huge place to play in making sure that roles in hospitality are as accessible as possible, and that we're as open as possible in terms of backgrounds and previous working environments or previous experience. And of course, you know, something that our leaders in venue in particular are focused on at the moment, is really creating the right environment to learn and to grow and to nurture people who, you know, as we've all, you know, already established on this call, that pipeline of job ready talent with loads and loads of experience isn't about to walk in the door with a CV and shiny shoes on. So, you know, how do we make these roles accessible? How do we make them exciting? How do we really show people the amazing career journeys such as Peter that genuinely are real and are out there and are available? So I think we've got a huge part to play in that.
Fantastic, thanks, Peter. We've got some feedback here actually. Mark Captain said that, Peter, this is such a fantastic idea and so inspiring. This is a great way to inspire people to actively seek a career in hospitality. So that's nice. We've got a question. Where was it on here? This was for Peter, actually. Do you think all restaurants should have stricter no-show policies? And what has been your experience with no-shows? And that was from Mark Captain, who's a journalist. Oh, you're on mute there, Peter.
Oh, Peter, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I'm so bad for computers. You know that. I was looking at a blank screen going, I've just messed this up. Yeah, no shows, sorry. I can tell you, no shows have been a massive issue, and it's something that become, again, we're very privileged being part of the Galvin and Hilton group, and we've got money in the bank, but there's a lot of small businesses out there that just don't survive it, and businesses are closing because of it. So we've put a lot of emphasis on the no-show situation. We've actually gone back old school. We've become very technical in our industry, right? So everything become online. And actually, when you're online so much, you lose that human contact with your consumers. So what we've done at Galvin at Windows, and is working really, really well, is back on the phone. Hi, Peter, just confirming your reservation with us on Tuesday night, letting the guests know we're running with unlimited tables. Can you please confirm? We've also put on top of that a £25 no-show charge per person, which we're now charging. And the amount of guests that I'm now speaking to who are rebooting that charge, and I'm like, sorry, lovely, but you have very clear terms and conditions. So no shows are a problem. We're seeing a reduction in ours, but there's still a bigger issue that needs to be addressed.
Thanks, Peter. A question for Peter, Graham and Hannah here then. As always is with the Chamber of Commerce, we're very lucky to be supported by Councillor Fawkes and the rest of the councillors and the council themselves. And Antonia, who is here on behalf of the council, has got a question that's actually could make some change. It'd be what would hospitality's top pieces of advice be? So what advice would you give to job seekers that the council might engage with?
Interesting one. I think the top piece of advice that we should be giving to people coming in, and it's not, I think the one thing to stress, and I'm guilty of saying it, hospitality is not just for young people, it's for people of all ages. So I've got my sister who's, you know, Zoe Jason, she'll be coming to do 2 days a week hosting, and she's, you know, she's close to 50. And sometimes, you know, hospitality, it accumulates for everyone. So I think it's not just an industry for young people. I think it's one of them industries for everyone. And I think that's key. I think the advice I'd be giving that the council could engage with as well is the ongoing development. So I sit on the board of the IOH, and what the IOH does, it has so much information and so much resource that can be offered to job seekers moving into hospitality that they can then be privy to, that can take them on an extraordinary journey from an education and development point of view. And I think the biggest thing that hospitality does, more than just hospitality, what it's done for me, what it's done for Jason, I'm sure for Graham and others on the call, and it's an industry that can really help your mental health. And it can really, the council, if you've got people in Kensington and Chelsea that have been affected by the pandemic, and there's a cafe on High Street Kensington that's got a cafe assistant, look at it in a different way, because by getting that, like my sister's been really affected by the pandemic big time. She's become, you know, quite nervy going out around people. But I know by bringing it into Galvin at Windows 2 days a week, 16 hours, she's going to build that confidence again. So I think the part with the council would be to help with that mental health part that people in the community are suffering. And I don't think we should be overlooking hospitality as a good gateway in to help support that mental health part as well. I think that's the first thing I'd say on it.
That's brilliant. Thanks. What about you, Graham?
I think anything the council can do in terms of bridging the gap between education and awareness as to the career path that is hospitality and those genuine opportunities is hugely important. I worked years ago very closely with a number of colleges. I still do quite a lot of support for a college up in Watford that specialises in special educational needs, and I do a lot of hands-on training with students who are looking for their first opportunities. But I think overall, you know, there's a huge fight to be had to really break down that perception that hospitality isn't your first choice of career or isn't your first choice of where you might see yourself. And yeah, as I say, any way in which the gap between education and going into your first hospitality role that the council can help bridge, fantastic. And that might be awareness, that might be training support, that might be providing platforms for amazing people like Peter to tell his story, etc. Yeah. Do
you know what, Graham, that's a really good bit of advice there, because you're right. Why is it not the first option? You don't know what it's going to lead to. I mean, that's really well put. Before we go to Hannah, Catherine Fawkes, did you have a question you wanted to?
It was just quickly to say thank you for those tips that you've been giving us. I think they're really useful. And I think in addition, you know, if there are any open days, because I think sometimes, as you were both saying, it's fun, it's a great environment to be in. And you just have to get kids there to see what it's like, to break down that barrier of saying that this isn't something they want to be in. So, you know, if anyone here in the chamber says we're going to have an afternoon, come along, you know, let's have a fun day, see what it's like to be in, then, you know, we'd love to be part of that. So
you've just made me smile. You've just made me remember something. I'll share it really quickly because I've got to tell you. We used to work with a welfare to work company, getting people back into work, particularly disadvantaged people back into work many years ago when I was with Edwardian Hotels. One of my favorite things to do was to take people into, you know, a really top, stupidly expensive suite and just break it down for people who are going into housekeeping for the first time and go, right, it's 2 pillowcases, 4 towels, 2 bars of soap. You know, don't be frightened. But yeah, absolutely. I think breaking down that sort of, you know, and showing people how much fun can be had and, you know, what a great career opportunity there is so important.
Thanks, Graham. I like that, breaking it down. Yeah. I think we'll start to wrap up on a nice note. So what I'd really like to know, Hannah, as somebody who has touched so many amazing venues in London and, you know, directed such a huge service events, it's always changing. London is the epicenter of food, let's say. I mean, that's quite a broad statement, but I think we're pretty close. What trends do you think we should be looking out for?
Oh, that's a good one. As I said earlier, I think the sort of outdoor dining is, well, hopefully it's here to stay in a bigger way, but I think definitely in a neighbourhood context, I really hope that that's a trend that continues. And then I think probably a kind of a steer towards people perhaps eating out less, but being more discerning with it. So not saying, you know, not from a perspective the hospitality industry is going to continue to suffer, but I think people are going to be thinking much more about the experiences, perhaps going more for tasting menus. I think there's there's a great concept, 6 by Nico, a restaurant in Fitzrovia, and their whole the whole way that works is a set fixed themed menu almost. Don't think of circuses though, fantastic themes. And they run that for, I think, 6 or maybe 9 weeks at a time. And then that's the end of that. You'll never eat that food again and you move on to the next one. And I think potentially for hospitality, perhaps some independence to survive and get that repeat custom, that might be a way of changing the menus a bit more often, offering something really experiential and different that nobody else is doing, or they're not doing the same way as you are. And I loved my experience there, and I really felt like some businesses that I'm involved with could really benefit from encouraging that repeat custom by being a really unique experience, but one that you can have in a different way in 2 months' time.
Thanks, Hannah. And on the theme of food, just two last questions, one for Graham, one for Peter. Graham, I have obviously been very privileged and lucky enough to work with you at All Star Lanes, and I know how passionate you were about the menu and how menu tastings we used to have, and the creation, if anyone's ever heard of the sticky chick, it's a chicken covered in honey. It's absolutely incredible. Graham, what can we look forward to at All Star Lanes to eat on your menu?
I would certainly agree with Hannah that there's a greater discernment of those people coming back out and spending that pound. We're all chefs now, aren't we? We've all sat at home and learned how to, how to do these things with asparagus and chop things in ways we've never done before.
Banana bread.
I think going out has to be an experience. It has to be a treat, and whether that's an indulgent experience or a fine dining experience, I think people are looking for something different that they can't just replicate on the sofa at home, because ultimately you're justifying why you're going out and spending that money for that experience. So I think generally speaking, a wow, a bit of theatre, a bit of an experience is important. I think in terms of trends, of course, this was all very much under the lens pre-COVID, but we are more and more aware of being responsible and, looking at responsible sourcing, looking at sustainable products, etc., etc. Even in our world, and I was one of the skeptics in the early days of All Star, when we looked at a greater proportion and a greater onus on health and on balance and nutrition. And I always said, well, All Star is the blowout night out. People come to have a big hearty, cheesy, gooey, burgery experience. And even on nights out in All Star, we've really diversified over the years, and that will only continue. And
one item, Graham, from the menu that we should be looking at this summer.
Goodness me, so many to choose for. We've brought back a really traditional, old-fashioned Philadelphia dish, which is it's called a chicken dip, which sounds really unusual, but it's a combination of American cheeses, mozzarella, grilled chicken, and it's served with warm nachos. It's fabulous, very indulgent.
I'll have one of those and a bottle of white wine, please. And then Peter, just wrapping up for us, Galvin has some of the best menus I've ever seen. I walked past Le Chapelle today, didn't quite go in, but I did walk past it and looked at the menu. One thing on your menu that we should be looking at this summer when we're coming to visit you?
Definitely our quail dish, which is part of our 7-course tasting menu, which is Mark's signature dish on that, which is a very exciting and comes as a very wow dish, to say the least. So it's a Norfolk quail, and I won't tell you too much about it because I really want you to try it, but it comes with a massive wow factor. And we're definitely seeing the trend towards tasting menus and the lifestyle changes. As Graham said, we've now got our wellness cocktails at the top of the cocktail list because we know there's a shift in that. We don't hide them at the bottom. And the guests can decide if they want to go for the healthy option or want to work their way down to a very strong martini. But yeah, it's just shifting it round. And that's a trend we're seeing.
Well, I can't wait to visit, Peter. I'll be waiting for my invitation in my inbox.
Guys, I'm here every night, as I say, double. Come on down to the Sky Bar and let's have a drink.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, LinkedIn, YouTube, and people watching on Facebook, that concludes our panel questions. Just before we finish, I'm going to just pass to our sponsor, which is Councillor Fawkes and the Royal Borough of Kensington Chelsea, who are just going to update us and fill us in on their amazing campaign that we're doing in the borough, which is lovely titled The Summer of Love. Catherine, would you like to introduce that to us?
I would. Thank you very much. And thank you, all of you. You're just so inspiring, and hearing the energy and the passion that you bring to the hospitality business. So, we've got some great ideas to take away and apply. But talking about passion and love, RBKC have just launched, or in fact, they're launching tomorrow, Summer of Love campaign, which I'm just going to put in the chat to everyone, the link to that. And this is all about love your shops, love your restaurants. It's going to be a fun time in Kensington, Chelsea. Come and eat here, come and enjoy being in the borough. So if you follow that link and go to the website, there's an art festival that goes with it. There's, all sorts of things. And as Antonia says, if any of you are around Duke of York Square tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be launched with the 606 from the King's Road Jazz Club. So I think it's going to be a fun thing. And by complete coincidence, the Ivy restaurant chain also decided to have a Summer of Love campaign. And if any of you have seen their really amazing video that they've done, we didn't quite get to have Mike Myers come down and do a dancing video for Kensington and Chelsea, but I'm glad we're all on the same channel. So do look out for that, and do look out for the the Kensington Chelsea Art Festival that is just started as well. So we've got art events happening all over the borough. But really, I'm just here to say thank you all for coming. Jason, thank you for being such a good chair and host for us all today, and hope to see you soon in one of your venues. So take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. And that does conclude our lovely seminar for today. So this is one of 3 in the series. Today was Recover and Grow. And as I mentioned, the series is sponsored by the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. We're very grateful for their support. Our next one of these will be on the 6th of July, and it will be based on, I have to say, I'm afraid, Brexit. It is not gone yet. We are still very much in it, in the midst of it, not actually in it. So that's on the 6th of July. And our next in real life event has moved to the 20th of July, which will be hosted at the Holiday Inn Kensington Forum. If anybody would like any information from today's speakers, an introduction, or any more info on anything at all, please feel free to get in touch with us directly, and we will happily make those engagements. Otherwise, thank you very much, everybody. Please keep an eye out on our website. We are launching a loyalty card soon for the members of the Chamber. And if anyone would like to get involved and offer something, looking at Graham and Peter mostly here, and Craig, if you want to offer anything at your venues, please do let us know when we get those live. Otherwise, thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you all. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Jamie, as well, from the Mayor's Office.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.